Good morning, everyone. Thanks again for joining me for this edition of Status Hearing. Today, I want to talk about anterior pelvic tilt and some stretches and strengthening activities that you can do to combat anterior pelvic tilt. When we're talking about anterior, we're always talking about the front of the body, pelvis. Anterior pelvic tilt is when the pelvis tilts toward the front of the body. And what causes that are tight hip flexor muscles, tight lower back, and tight gluteal muscles. Now, the problem with things being tight is that when we have tight muscles are weak muscles. And the antagonists, I've talked about agonists and antagonists. If our back is the agonist, the antagonist is the abdomen. That abdomen gets weaker and weaker as the back gets tighter and tighter, because we have to be able to expand and contract. The tighter the muscles become, the less they're able to expand. And that's why stretching makes us stronger. The muscles have more range of motion. They can become bigger and they can become smaller, but they can't contract if they can't expand in the first place. So we'll start with some opening stretches to combat the problems of anterior pelvic tilt, and then we'll go into some strengthening exercises. We'll start with our belly breath. And one of the benefits of the belly breath is that it does force you to expand and contract the belly. So we're getting a little movement in the belly. And if you continue to focus on what you're doing, you'll begin to feel this in the lower back as well. So lying on the back, let's get started. Inhale, filling the belly. Exhale, pulling the navel to the spine. And just, again, making an effort to move through the core. And of course, this helps us to wake the body up a little bit too. When we can talk about directing energy, when we inhale, we can think about directing energy up the back, riling up the rear internal line of energy. And rear, sometimes we refer to that as posterior. The front of the body is anterior, but that posterior internal line of energy is the spine. We direct the energy up the spine, and then we move down the front or anterior internal line of energy down the midline of the core. So as we move up, just think about kind of expanding belly, ribs, shoulder blades and chest, shoulders, circle back down from the shoulders to the chest, to the ribs, to the belly, all the way to the pelvic floor. Remember, you want to exhale all the breath out of the body. That will help you contact the pelvic floor. So inhale up the back. Exhale, shoulders, chest, ribs, belly, pelvic floor. Inhale, lower back, ribs, middle back, shoulder blades, shoulders. Exhale, back down again. Let's go do 2 more of those. So from here, let's bring both knees into the chest and go ahead and reach your left arm for your right elbow. Coming into Pavanamuktasana or wind relieving pose. As we exhale, the navel pulls down. We squeeze the knees toward the chest. As we inhale, the belly pushes up and it's going to push the knees away from the body. That's what your hands are for. Your hands are going to resist. Your arms are going to resist that push. So inhale, flatten out the back, allow the knees to move away from the chest, but not too far because the hands are going to make sure that they can't get too far. As we exhale, we can flatten everything to the floor again. Inhale, flatten the lower back. Exhale, flatten head, shoulders, upper back. Inhale, ribs, pelvis, lower back flattens on the inhalation, upper back flattens on the exhalation. And you can play with this. Go ahead and rotate your hips slightly. As you exhale, gently rotate your right hip away from your right shoulder. Inhale, exhale, rotate left hip away from the left shoulder. Inhale, rotate. Inhale, rotate. Of course, we're exhaling after that. Inhale, rotate, and we'll come back to center. From here, gently roll yourself over to one side. We'll come up onto all fours. Take a look at the outer lines of the thighs. You want them roughly straight up and down. So roughly a straight line from the shoulder all the way down to the knee. I'm going to place the hands directly in front of the knees. Shift the weight forward so that there's a little weight pressing into my hands. From here, we'll exhale into our cat pose. Inhale into our cow pose. Exhale. And inhale. So coming into our cat-cow pose, rounding through the back, inhaling, relaxing through the stomach, belly. So think about those agonists and antagonists. As we come into cat, we're contracting through the stomach and stretching through the lower back. As we come into cow, we're contracting through the lower back and stretching through the belly. Exhale and inhale. And exhale. And obviously, when we stretch through the belly, we release the muscles in the belly, the pelvis tilts forward. And so that there's no problem with an anterior pelvic tilt unless we can't flatten it back out again. Now, obviously, if we take a moment to make a special effort, we can do that. And the problem is when it begins to just stay that way, then we start getting some pain. So let's go ahead and take a nice deep breath here. One more time. Exhale. Inhale. And on your next exhalation, we'll come to an upright position. We're going to step forward with that right foot. And you see I have a 90-degree angle between the legs and at both knees. Now, first thing I need to do is rotate that back foot so that the entire top of my foot is on the floor and not just the inside of my foot. You can see my foot is slightly everted or turned away from my body. So I'm going to try to even that out. And then I'm going to go ahead and lean forward into a deep lunge. Now, the goal of this is to continue to pull my tailbone or pull my hips down toward the floor. As I pull my hips down toward the floor, it really forces me to contract through the belly and lengthen through this whole, I'd say from the ribs all the way down to the pelvic floor. So inhaling, filling the belly, exhaling, tucking the glutes under, feeling the stretch in the front of the thighs, and engaging the belly. Inhale, fill, exhale, engage the belly, and press the hips forward, stretching through the front of the thigh. One more time in, and as we exhale, we'll just step back here. I'm going to step back now with that right foot, step forward with the left foot. Same thing again for me. I got to really watch that eversion of the foot and do my best. And mine isn't going to be perfect. Yours might be. Mine isn't going to be perfect. I'll do my best. That's all I can do, right? So I'm coming forward now into that lunge. And if you're having trouble with the balance, feel free to drop down onto the floor with one hand or rest on your knee. Another way of holding yourself steadier is to press that back shin into the floor and see if you can make the top of that foot a little more neutral. So if my foot is turned out, I'm not going to be stretching through the front of my hip as much. I'm going to be kind of contorting my hip, rotating it back. And then if I try to stretch it forward, I'm really setting myself up for some injury here. So try to make that shin as neutral as possible, the entire top of the foot pressing into the floor and the shin. And then I'm going to lean forward here. Again, as I exhale, pull the navel toward the spine, engage the abdomen, and tuck the hips under to stretch the front of that thigh. So inhaling, filling the belly, exhale, engage, tuck the hips under and lengthen. One more time in, and as I exhale, take one more breath. As you exhale, think about pulling your foot backward and dragging your knee forward. I'm not going to move, but it is going to force me to engage the abdominals, the fronts of the thighs, and the inner thighs. From here, we'll come up into a standing position. So I'm just going to drag the rear foot forward. I'm in a staggered stance, and I'm just going to stand myself up. And the story of my life is my head is cut off as usual. However, you just need to see my feet. Go ahead and pivot the feet so that the front foot is forward, the back foot is at about a 45-degree angle. We're going to bring the arms nice and wide. And as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and just bring the body forward here for a moment for 5-point star. As we inhale, lifting through the outer thighs. As we exhale, sliding the backs of the outer thighs down toward the floor. Inhale, lift and lengthen through the outer thighs all the way up to the shoulders. Exhale. Inhale up the front external energy line. Exhale down the back external energy line. And from here, let's pivot those feet again. So my left foot pivots forward. My right foot's at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to rotate my hips so that I'm facing forward and then gently bend through that left knee. So arms nice and wide here. The left knee is rotating backward. Now, key to this posture is making sure that, again, just like in my low lunge, I'm tucking that pelvis under. So I'm avoiding arching the back. As I inhale, I fill. As I exhale, tuck the pelvis under. Feel the stretch through the back of through the rear leg. And then rotate that front leg backward. So inhale, fill, exhale. Think about pushing the feet apart as you pull the navel to the spine. That will help you to feel the engagement of the legs. Inhale and exhale. One more time. In. And as we exhale, we'll relax the arms, straighten out the legs, and just pivot to the opposite side. So this time my right foot is forward. My left foot is at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to bring the arms nice and wide, but I'm going to rotate the hands so that the palms are facing forward. Take another nice deep breath in as you exhale. Gently bend that front knee and rotate the core so that your belly and your face, your belly and your shoulders, are facing forward. We're going to rotate the head so the face is, eyes are gazing over that left hand. As we inhale, we fill the belly. As we exhale, we're going to pull the navel toward the spine and think about sliding the feet together. That's going to help you stretch through that rear hip flexor. Also going to help you stretch through the front inner thigh. Inhaling. So keep staying active with that belly breath. One more nice deep breath in. And as we exhale, I'm going to straighten out, relax the arms again, pivot the feet forward. We'll come into one last stretch here, which is simply a forward bend, a wide-legged forward bend. So from here, you can bring your hands around the outside edges of your feet if that's an option. Bend your knees as much as you need to so that you can wrap your hands around the outside of your feet. If that's not an option, bring the hands to the outside of the ankles. Wherever you are, as we exhale, we're going to tuck the hips down toward the floor and pull the navel toward the spine. So we're thinking about, it's almost like we're trying to straighten out, but the hands are restricting that. The hands are holding on to the ankles or the feet, preventing you from straightening and standing. So as we inhale, we relax everything. Fill the belly. As we exhale, we pull the navel to the spine. Think about pulling away from the floor, but your hands aren't going to allow that. Inhale, fill, exhale, effort. Push the heels away from each other. Slide the butt cheeks toward the floor. Inhale and exhale one more time. In and exhale. And from here, I'm just going to walk my hands forward, walk my feet together, and come down into a kneeling posture. And as usual, I didn't get quite as far as I intended to today. We'll finish up tomorrow. But let's come down for one final stretch here, which is just child pose or balasana. We're sitting back on the heels. Knees are roughly hip width apart. So again, I can stand up, take a look at my the outside lines of my thighs, and just sit back on those heels. Relax the head. And similarly, and you can think about this as an upside down Pavanamuktasana. The first posture we did, we were lying on the back, squeezing the knees toward the chest. This is the same thing. We're just rolling over now onto the belly. And it's the floor that's helping us hold the knees toward the chest. So if the hands are back near the feet, you can still, as you exhale, pull the navel toward the spine and reach the hips back to the wall behind you. Now you can hold on to your heels. You can relax your hands all together, or you can bring your hands forward and push your hips backward a little bit. So you can use your hands to help you stretch through your hips. Really up to you. Whatever feels appropriate for you. Using the hands may help you to feel a deeper stretch in the hips. Hands back, not using the hands, may force you to engage the abdominals a little more firmly. And on your next inhalation, we'll just come back up onto the knees and roll over onto the back for final Shavasana. So today we went through 5 yoga postures to help you open up the belly and the hips and to counter anterior pelvic tilt, which is that arched back with the tailbone kind of poking out behind in the belly, tending to get very weak because the arched back is an indication of tighter and tighter lower back muscles. So we want to loosen those up and engage the belly to counter anterior pelvic tilt. Tomorrow I'll show you a couple of strength exercises. For now, let's go ahead and just extend the legs, relax to the floor. Scan the inside of the body. Where do you feel heat, activity, pulsing, maybe pain? Sense into the tops of your feet, your ankles and shins. I'm feeling a lot of sensation in the fronts, in my shins, the fronts of my lower legs. Fronts and backs of the thighs, glutes or butt cheeks, hips and abdomen. Feel into the inside of the lower back, inside of the upper back, the front ribs and the back ribs, the chest and shoulders. Tune into the front of the neck and the back of the neck, upper arms, lower arms, hands and fingers. You may not feel one area more acutely than the other. You may feel all of them roughly similarly, or there may be some areas where you're getting no sensation at all. That's okay. But what we want to do, see if we can bring the body together, particularly if you're getting areas where there's no sensation at all. See if you can relax through the neck and just feel the entire circumference of the neck. Tuck the shoulder blades down your back. And just see if you can feel now the circumference of the neck and the tops of the shoulders. Soften the muscles in the neck. Soften the muscles in the shoulders. And then turn your attention to the outside of your body. What sensations are you getting on the skin on the backs of the shoulders? I'm getting a very rough carpet fiber. Not feeling a whole lot in my neck. I'm going to tuck my chin a little more actively. Now I can feel a little more of a stretch in the back of the neck, and I can feel a little more contraction in the front of the neck. I also feel a breeze across the front of my neck. And the idea there is just that if you can't feel any sensation in a certain area of the body, we just go somewhere and start really trying to focus on one area. And then allow everything to just let go. Sometimes it helps to kind of take the bull by the horns like that, to just isolate and start really drilling into one particular area, just to see if you can engage, if you can stimulate some sensation. But it may be that letting go enables you to feel a much stronger sensation. So often, when we want something, when we're looking for results, we're looking for a specific consequence, we're looking for a certain pattern of events, letting go does more to bring things about than a struggle or than increasing the struggle. Moods work that way. The more you focus and try to elicit a certain mood, the more elusive it seems to become. We've reached the end of our time today. If this is feeling pretty good for you, feel free to remain where you are. for a few more moments of silent stillness. Otherwise, bring yourself back from Shavasana in whatever way feels comfortable. Small movements in the arms and legs, rotations in the head, a gentle stretch. And whenever you're ready, go ahead and roll to one side. Allow the blood first to drop to that side so you know that it's moving. And then you can bring yourself back up to an upright position. I hope that this was helpful for you today. And if you remember during the day, you may want to practice some of those postures. If you sit a lot, you probably have issues with a tight lower back and tight hip flexors. So if nothing else, that cat-cow is a great exercise to do in the middle of the day, just to sort of wake everything up. Thanks again for joining me. I hope this was useful for you, and I hope that you'll join me again tomorrow at 7 a.m. for AM Status Hearing. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.